edition of the Round Table. Bill Priestley here along with Michael Vincent. Thomas WASSON here as we play another edition of Good Idea, Bad Idea. We haven't had a chance to do this in a while, so let's jump into it here, gentlemen. Sure, why not? So, number one, the Biden administration doled out over $463 million to states to help lower the amount of crashes involving trucks. And instead of the amounts being based on population, there was a formula that put heavier weights on states that had crashes involving trucks with hazardous materials, as well as crashes with buses. In the end, Texas got just over 10% of the $463 million. Population of Texas, 29 million. More than 50% more than what California got, 6% of the population at 39 million. Good idea, bad idea, or is this just a reflection of the fact that there are now going to be a lot of autonomous trucks in Texas?
You coming this way first?
Sure.
Okay. It makes complete sense to me. I think it's a good idea to go where the crashes are. If you're going to try, you're applying it, you're putting forth this money to try and affect something, you go to where it is happening the most, right? So I think it makes sense to base it on that. Basing it on population would sound to me or seem to me more like a buying of votes. This seems to be more of a actual trying to get something done.
All right.
So I say good idea.
All right.
Go where the crashes are.
Kind of reminds me of like you look at crime statistics. You always wondered why larger cities had more crime compared to rural areas. It's because there's more people in large cities. So when we're looking at crashes and stuff, I'm a little confused because why are we targeting hazardous materials in buses? In that case, wouldn't California or New York or a place with larger bus public infrastructure get more of the money versus Texas? And so kind of a confusing idea for me, actually. I don't know if it's a good or a bad one, but it just seems perplexing that when we're looking at the data and we're wanting to make data-driven decisions, usually people do it as a percentage of population because it's the simplest, but I would probably need a little more information to make a full call because it just sounds kind of odd targeting hazmat and buses.
True. Number two here, railroad unions are asking railroads not to use new technologies put forward by the FRA that will scan tracks for imperfections, that's track geometry, and monitor wheel temperatures when interacting with brakes, the DWAs that are starting to be used, because those tasks have been done by humans, and using technology would, among other things, eliminate union jobs, i.e. railroad inspectors. Good idea, bad idea, Mr. WASSON?
I think anything using technology in order to overcome, like especially the limitations of people, is always a phenomenal idea. It's not a good idea for the guys in the unions, and I pour one out for my homies in the unions if there were any, but at the same time, the situation is humans can still make mistakes. You have a human person who's inspecting the track, he's making a decision based on his experience. If you have the machine that's doing it, it's looking at it via tolerances. It's very mathematical. The machine simply just does. And so, for having these outfitted on trains, you want to make sure the cost of messing it up is greater than the cost of losing that guy's job. And that's the truth. We just had a trail go away in Minnesota, derailment of Amtrak. So you want to tell me that I'm not going to use any technology that'll make my rail line safer because of some guy worried about you losing his job when, what is the cost? And we put it in a cost perspective. I always think it's a great idea when the costs and the benefits of the safety outweigh the unfortunateness of one guy losing a role or, an elimination of a role, just because we can't afford to be wrong.
Yeah. And Michael mentioned this also comes at a time when railroads and the unions are starting to that, or actually have been in that negotiation as well.
Going to arbitration as well, right? I believe. Or could possibly go to arbitration. But yeah, obviously, the union supporting no technology is a bad idea even for anybody. But I agree with you 100%, right? I don't want people to lose their jobs, but if we can make things safer, and coming right on the heels of the Amtrak situation like you just talked about, you have to go with the safer option, and humans get distracted. It's imperfect. And if you can put these things on trains and make it more safe with the technology, absolutely go with the technology, because as Thomas put out, they just do, right? So if they're programmed correctly and they're operating correctly, they're going to make the right choice every time. Human isn't.
You would assume, of course, that maybe some of those jobs could be saved through just monitoring the technology and making sure that it's set up as well.
Sure, absolutely.
All right. Number three, the FMCSA is monitoring 2 interstates I-81 and I-95 in the eastern half of the country, in which they're targeting distracted and reckless driving and impaired visibility enforcement. A spokesman for FMCSA said there has already been a 5-day safety enforcement campaign, which is earlier this month. The upcoming weeks for enforcement: July 4 through 8, July 18 through 22, August 1 through 5, and August 15 through 19. Bad idea or good idea that they're doing this, one, and then letting drivers know when and where these checkpoints are going to be, Mr. Vincent?
I like the idea of checking this stuff to make sure that we are safe. I think that's a good idea, because we want to be safe, right? I mean, and that's the bottom line there. Even if you feel like it's an invasion of your privacy, it really isn't your privacy when your privacy can threaten my family driving down the road. So, and vice versa. So I agree with that 100%. Announcing it. I don't know if that it's good or bad, or I have an opinion there anyways. I mean, it'll cause people to drive safer, right? I mean, the idea isn't to catch somebody in an accident. It's to prevent them, right? And to make sure that they're looking at it. So I think announcing it isn't such a bad idea, unless your goal is to catch as many people as possible. I don't know.
Okay. Mr. Wasson, I've often heard that a watched animal will behave differently than one that doesn't feel it's being observed. What do you feel?
Oh, definitely. I got another story from my experience in law enforcement. You can definitely, so this is how it does work. So good idea on the first part. Tom is chilling out on the side of a highway with a radar gun, not even using it, pointing it at cars, is the funniest and most effective thing in the world. Because it makes a sound and goes, because they all slam their brakes, and they all go 10 miles under the speed limit because of the fear factor. So, good idea on the first part. Bad idea announcing it. What a lot of law enforcement does is called correcting behaviors. And if you're going to give them a heads up, you're still going to catch the repeat offenders. You're still going to catch the people who are going to mess up. But you really just kind of want to have that little bit of randomness just to instill enough concern that the risks are there, and then also, you're correcting behavior. Anytime you have drivers that are driving unsafe, anytime you have people who are operating on the roadways in an unsafe manner, in my opinion, you got to check that. You got to correct it. So I think it's a bad idea letting them know. I know it's the government, so they're going to give you a fair warning. It's like a gentleman's agreement. I'll give you this many minutes to run before I try to find you. But at the same time, I think it's a situation where a little bit more randomness and chaos will actually help a long way, because now as the motorist, you have a little bit of worry that, is today going to be my day? I've been breaking the law. Are they going to get me?
Gotcha. Number 4, President Biden has called on Congress to enact a 3-month gas tax holiday, lowering the price of a gallon of the gas by about 18 cents. I think diesel goes down by 21 cents here. A couple of weeks ago, we talked about Georgia and offering their gas tax moratorium. We thought that was a bad idea. On a federal level, what do you think, Mr. Wasson?
I think that it's kind of a situation where I save 18 cents per gallon. I have like a 10-gallon tank, so that's what, $1.80.
Yeah.
So I save like $5 total on a good day, I guess, as a motorist. And so I don't think that's going to really change anything. I know the midterms are coming up, so we got to try to do something. But unfortunately, I would rather say that maybe we need a little more refinement capacity, or we kind of need more of a macro thing, because it feels a little insulting to me that you're going to let me save 18 cents. I can go to Food City down the road and save 10 cents on a Wednesday. So it's kind of a situation where I'm actually more insulted that we're not looking at other sources given the current legislative environment. You think that with midterms coming up, we'd be attempting to do more things to shore up our energy policies to ensure that we have a functioning economy by the time folks go out in November.
Yeah, it's a Band-Aid. It's not going to do anything. Let's put it that way. It's going to save some people a little bit of money for a little while. I think it would be better if it were backed up with some sort of thought process or plan or strategy to affect it in the long run, or to prevent what has happened. In the long run, to prevent what has happened over this past winter, right? Because it wasn't just that it just suddenly became more expensive. There was an event that occurred, right? And so our exposure to those type of events needs to be prevented, is what the issue is, not an 18 cents break for 3 months, which doesn't even get you to the midterms. So what's the political ramifications there at all, right? Okay. It's going to go away just as you're going into midterms, right? Yeah. And plus, it creates more demand. So theoretically, it doesn't do anything but increase the price, actually, of the diesel because of or gasoline because of supply and demand. If it's cheaper, people are going to want it more.
All right.
Just like doling out monies while we're, to buy new stuff.
Sure.
Caused inflation.
Last one. Japanese container shipping company Ocean Network Express, or ONE, is suing Union Pacific over cargo that occurred on UP's intermodal trains. According to one's legal filing in the U.S. District Court for Nebraska. UP was contracted to deliver solar panels from China to Salt Lake City via the Port of Los Angeles, but when the train arrived in Salt Lake City, the container's door was missing and the panels were stolen. O&E estimates the claim for failing to deliver the solar panels is worth just under $15,800. If O&E is held liable for the claim, UP should also be held liable for failing to deliver the cargo, attorneys for O&E argued. Good idea or bad idea to implicate the carrier in the theft of a load that the shipper contracted, Mr. Vincent?
Depends on the exchange, right? What was the transfer of that container? Did UP look at that container and decide that the cargo was there? If they signed for it free and clear saying it was there, then they're on the hook.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, there you go. It's that simple. Good idea, bad idea. It's really that simple.
You're hauling the goods. There is some responsibility. We can't. I think it's
you can't sign for them and later say, "Well, we made a mistake." No.
Yeah. No oopsie daisies. Oh, the back of your truck is missing a trailer door. It's totally not your fault. It's really my fault. Yeah. You know, that's what we have. Like at the end of the day, like please secure your goods when you haul them. I mean, that's kind of. I'm surprised it's going to court over $15,000 though. I feel like in my experience, maybe Michael Vincent, we've seen a lot more.
I've never been in court for less than $15,000. To tell you the truth.
Well, it's an interesting situation. Obviously, you go into a port like or the rail yard at LA, which is had a lot.
Is it really the question of whether they're double dipping or not?
Yes.
Okay. Double dipping shouldn't be allowed. I mean, look at the thing. It's either one or the other's fault.
Yeah. All right.
But why did UP show up with a container and saying, "Hey, we got it," and then there's no door.
Door's missing.
Yeah, look, the door's missing. We brought it anyway, but there's no door.
Right.
Sorry.
That'll do it for Roundtable for today. We'll take a short break and wrap up our show after this.